In this presentation, you will learn about nationalism without nation as propounded by G. Aloysius. The national movement has been an area which has been studied by sociologists and historians. There are also schools like the Subaltern School which question the national movement and locates how the marginalized groups were used by the dominant groups for their own interests and they didn't receive the due recognition. This presentation is based on the book Nation Without Nationalism, written by G. Aloysius in 1997 by Oxford University Press. Let us look at the meaning of nation and nationalism. Aloysius views nation as a constructed category. The nation is the feeling of a common bond between people that share a common cultural past and present. He also views it as an entity forming part of the compound concept nation-state, or to a linguistic ethnic community struggling for its own statehood. It may refer to a relationship that exists or is presumed to exist between individuals and groups with either equality or common cultural bond as the basis of common political consciousness. Here, the discussion of nation as a geographical location hasn't been discussed. On the other hand, in the book Imagined Communities, Reflections on the Origin and Spread of Nationalism, Anderson imagined a political community as both inherently limited and sovereign. Anderson explains each of the important words of this definition. Nation is imagined because all the people who inhabit it do not know each other, and even in the smallest of the nations, all the people do not have to-face interaction. Still, they treat each person inhabiting within the boundaries of the nation as a fellow national being. Political consciousness. According to Aloysius, the common cultural bond of a nation acts as a basis for a common political consciousness. It is here that the political enters into the idea of nation. The political consciousness is understood as awareness among people of the power relations which governs a group or a society, and this awareness leads to the assertion of the power relation. Aloysius views political consciousness as the perception of power relations within society and of one's own position. It also refers to an urgency to take collective action to strengthen or alter that position. Let us look at the core arguments. Aloysius argues that in India, nationalism existed and continues to exist without a nation. He argues that nationalism may refer to the doctrine or ideology of an aspiring class, or to the policy orientation of a state, or to a praiseworthy sentiment of attachment to one's own nation or state. Nationalism may also refer here to a socio-political movement for state formation or any anti-imperialist movement, or to the nation-building activities, mobilization of a government or class. Moreover, for him, it is this aspiring class or classes which initiate or lead the movement towards the aspiration of the formation of the nation. There are also certain groups which deny such an existence and can be seen as hegemony of knowledge and even creation of history and nationalism. Aloysius tries to bring this perspective where he combines the politics and sociology through historical sociology and looks from the view of the submerged masses. It is a work on sociology of nationalism and history in his book Nation Without Nationalism. He analyzes the result of the interaction between traditional Indian society and colonial rule, particularly from the point of view of the restructuring of power relations within. The analysis addresses the following questions. What was the impact of the British on the segmented and traditional Indian society? Were the changes brought about during colonial rule conducive to the becoming of a society based on social mobility and anonymity of membership? Finally, what kind of infrastructural foundation was laid for the rise of political consciousness and articulation of nationalist thoughts and sentiments? Such questions are raised through his work. He also makes a survey of literature and analyzes the struggles of anti-caste, anti-feudal, and pro-autonomy, which claims to create a national society which is homogeneous with respect to power. A short survey of different schools of thought is also addressed in his work, followed by a contextualization of the birth and growth of the anti-imperialist movement. He also discusses the dichotomous nature of Indian political response to colonial rule and the mutual relationship between what are seen as traditional but labeled as the national and communal movements. He traces the development of the ideologies of nationalism, cultural and political, within the conflicting socio-political situation. According to him, the nationalist ideology was not monolithic and did not go without contestation. Nationalism as an intellectual cultural construct too was diversified within the subcontinent. For him, construction of the past was differential. The contestation at present was polarized, and the visions of the future were divergent. He also points out that in the latter phase of the nationalist movement, known as the Gandhian era, it can be seen as an attempt to bring together the two streams of national and nationalist, or national and communal, as per established historiography. According to him, in the context of the new situation currently developing in the country, this Gandhian legacy has assumed a new significance, at least among the ruling circles and the established academia. He also discusses about the nationalist mobilization, which is a combination of both vertical and horizontal political mobilizations within society. It is both integrative as well as disruptive. One of the attempts to grasp the nature of this mobilization at the theoretical level is through Antonio Gramsci. In the last chapter of his book, he proposes to situate the Indian national synthesis within the Gramscian notion of the national popular and hegemony, and examines whether nationalism has indeed invented the nation or not. Thank you for watching the presentation.